City Council meeting for Thursday, January 14th, 2015, at 7 o'clock at Alburnett City Hall. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd like to welcome Charlie McClintock, new council member. So, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, Lynn County Sheriff.
Evening, I'm Deputy Rambarger for the Sheriff's Office. Calls for service log for Alburnett, December 10th through January 14th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Said it was December 10th through January 14th. Required hours 43, 66.12 hours logged. With 31 calls for service. Questions, comments, concerns?
Council have any questions for him? If not, feel free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This time, welcome Brian Manson as our new council member also. So, okay. Alburnett Fire Department.
We had 11 calls for service in December. We had 8 medical in the city limits. The PR, the Santa Day, we called Santa for the stroke society. A fire alarm and an auto accident in the township. Then there's a class on February 13th. I'd like to send like 6 of our guys to. It's $110 a person, but it's over peds and stuff.
Well, I'm sorry, it's over what?
Pediatric kids stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like kids
I just-
trauma and
I just couldn't-
hands-on
okay.
training. That'd be $660 if that's all right with you guys, or
Who we sending?
6 people.
Do you have any idea? Huh?
that'd be me, Chris Anderson, Brenda Leach, Myrna. I would talk to Julie at Hoover, and then Andrew. They're all medical.
The people you're sending, are they the ones that have the, what is it, the medical part?
Yeah, they're either EMTs or
They're EMT or
paramedics
EMT,
or
okay. I figured they were, but I meant, that's why I was curious.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's not medical training.
That's what I figured, so, okay.
But Verna said it'd be a great conference for us to go to. It's in Iowa City.
That's the registration fees, the 110.
Yeah.
Is there not travel costs associated with that?
We're just driving home vehicles now.
What is it? How long does this last, Steve?
It's 1 day, it's like
1 day.
7 to 5 or something.
Another question, does this count toward your CEUs for your EMT licenses? I figured it did with the amount, the cost of it. And so what hours is that toward your CEUs?
It's 7.
7? That's cheap.
You get 24 in every 2 years.
I'll make a motion and we send them.
Motion been made to send 6 fire department members to the conference. Do we have a second? Seconded by Woods. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Then I got a guy coming next Wednesday to look at our bunker gear. I got 2 or 3 people that need, they don't have any gear, they've been borrowing. Some people that show up, and then, so the next meeting I'll have a price for you guys. Just something to think about. That's all I have.
Any questions for him? Fire trucks running okay, are they? Got them running?
We had a few issues here and there, nothing major.
Okay.
Did we get the light things all taken care of?
No, that was a month to order the light bar,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't heard anything yet from them.
Okay, so we haven't done the lights.
Well-
I mean, you're following up on it, it
Yeah,
just
the
hasn't
lights-
happened yet.
We got the lights to work. Lynn County Hazmat is selling the trucks. They took the power supply of that to lend to us until we got our new lights for that truck. lights work, but the new ones are coming.
Okay, so our truck is definitely is in
Yes.
service because the lights are working.
Yes.
Okay, that was my concern.
Then we narrowed the light bar down a little bit, so it's gonna be a little cheaper than what we quoted you last time. but- Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Matt? Anything else?
I don't have anything really to update on. I think there's a few things on agenda later that
Yeah,
the
I'll,
guy had wanted me to come for, so I can
Okay.
speak it when those come up.
Okay, Dara?
Hi,
Cedar Rapids Public Library?
so I started with the Cedar Rapids Public Library about 16 months ago, and I was most recently in libraries north of Denver, Colorado. Before that I worked in California, and before that I worked in Ohio,
What town is right
Thornton, and my library was in Brighton. And so as I've worked in all of these different states, there's different types of library funding. And when I came to Iowa, the Iowa State Library, there are contracting cities. And so about a year ago, probably, I called Sharon and I said, it lists Alburnett as a contracting city with Cedar Rapids. What does that mean? And she said, I have no idea. And I said, okay, neither do I. And then all kinds of things happened in the first year of your job. And, you know, it kind of got put on the back burner. And then a few months ago again, I was like, we found the contract. And so we have a contract with you that we have had since 1991, that we're basically coming to suggest we leave it alone now that we've all seen it, at least for the next 2 to 3 years, because the contract you currently have is cheaper than other contracting cities, and we've kind of got a whole lot going on, that it might be best to just stick with status quo. And so then I'm gonna hand you one more on the way back. So what you get for your service, right now, a long time ago. But the reason why it's a pretty good contract is that it's based on county per capita funding. And so as county per capita funding has changed throughout the last 20 years, your contract rate would change. And what you're currently getting for your contract, 362 of your citizens have library cards with the Metro Library Network. The Metro Library Network is Cedar Rapids, Marion, and Hiawatha. Of those 3 libraries, we currently contract with Alburnett and with the city of Robbins. And when you contract with any of the Metro Library Network libraries, you receive equal service, and we actually split your dollars between the other libraries as well. So of your citizens, 362 have library cards with the Metro Library Network, and in the calendar year 2015, your citizens have actually checked out 7,620 items from our libraries, and so you're using a lot of service. If you went with per capita funding, according to the state library, your fees per capita would be about $36.67. With your current contract, you're actually at $21.30, and so you can see that's a pretty significant disparity. How library funding works in the state of Iowa is if you contract with an accredited library, you then are active in what's called open access. Open access gives your citizens library service to any accredited library in the entire state of Iowa. And so through interlibrary loan, through travel, if people are working in other cities, etc., they can use library service through this open access program. How you participate in open access is either you have a city that has a municipal library, then everybody's in. If you're a city that does not have its own municipal library, then you contract with another city. Or if you live in an unincorporated area of any county in the state of Iowa, county contracts with cities as well. It is a wildly complex funding situation that is very different than any state where I have ever lived and worked. I know that the state library is working on making some changes probably in the next 3 to 5 years to standardize all of these county or city contracts if they can, which is why I'm suggesting we leave things at status quo, because we think there's gonna be some changes at the state level. Your citizens participate in story times. Your citizens have equal rights to rooms with no fees, to programs and services like teen programs, children's early literacy story times, checkout of books, movies, music. The one stat that's not on here because we can't capture it in quite the same way is ebooks and circulation, so that you can check out with your iPad, I have 3 books on my iPhone right now, and that all comes through your library card. We estimate it's probably an additional about 575 titles that have been checked out through your citizens in the last year, over downloadable things as well. For the ebook specifically, we don't get direct numbers for our downloadable music, but you can actually also download albums and things. So that's kind of the overview of what your contract gets you and what's been going on with it. You have not been paying it since 2011, but we haven't invoiced you since 2012. And so that is our own fault, and so we are suggesting we start now and go forward. And the reason for that is honestly, Cedar Rapids obviously post-flood, there were a lot of things happening with the new buildings and changes in leadership and things like that, and so it's just been all kinds of changes happening. As we look back at your numbers in circulation throughout the last 3 years, since we've opened our 2 new buildings, you circulate more at Cedar Rapids than you do at Marion and Hiawatha, but again, we split these contracts between all 3 libraries. While we had one location in the mall kind of after the flood and things changed, you actually circulated much more at Marion than you did at Cedar Rapids, and we anticipate that there will continue to be changes, which is again why the Metro Library Network libraries work together. That's probably about as clear as mud. But do you have any questions about how that works or the contract itself as it stands right now?
If I was to go down and check out a book, is there another fee?
No.
So
No.
there's no other fee for service?
There is no other fee for service.
Other than what's here?
Other than what's here. So basically, what that fee for service gets you is you have the same rights, your citizens of Alburnett have the same rights for the libraries as a citizen of Marion, Cedar Rapids, or Hiawatha. And so basically, all of the story times and programs are free, all of the meeting room use is free, all of the books are free. The only thing that we charge more for is like, for anybody, we would charge if you're using the meeting rooms hours that the library is not open.
So you don't charge to park or anything like that?
What a great question. At the downtown library, with your library card, you get 2 hours free. So there is, if you went to the downtown library, there's a parking garage that's right next to it, and as long as you've got your library card with you, you type your library card into the parking kiosk and you get 2 hours of free parking. The Ladd Library, on that southwest side of town, which I didn't break those out, how much your citizens circulate one to the other, we just did Cedar Rapids, Marion, Hiawatha. The Ladd Library has a full parking lot, as does Marion and Hiawatha. Marion Library may or may not be building a new building. They've also got all kinds of interesting things happening with their library right now. And so even if they close their current location temporarily, they will still have service for you and all of their citizens in a temporary location while they're building a new building.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
What, the new contract, is it yearly, or what's it gonna be, the new contract?
And so what I'm suggesting, what the contract says right now, is that it essentially just renews automatically every year unless we wanna change it or you wanna change it. And so, as it stands, we can just leave it alone. And then obviously so I'm suggesting we probably won't come back to you with anything for the next 3 years. But if the state were to change, then we would come back, yeah.
You'll send me an invoice, right?
Yes, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as long as, but this was, you guys hadn't seen this, and we just found it, and so our conversation was, you probably don't even know what your citizens are getting, how much this really costs, like, we didn't think, we thought this would be a good conversation to have to make sure you understood what you're paying for.
Sharon, this looks like a perpetual contract renewed annually, like you said,
Yes.
with a 30-day out. I
Yep.
didn't see a line item for it in the budget. Did we close this out, or anyone that was here in
Oh, it's always, the
2010?
library service is in the budget,
Was it closed out in 2010?
closed out, we just never paid on it, I mean, we just never
Because we've
expended
never
the money.
invoiced it.
It's
We
been in the
budget for
budget.
this every year.
We
though.
budget
Yeah.
for it every year, it's just we've never expended it because we never got an invoice and never knew where the original one was until Edith
Yeah.
Hall.
Yeah, this is in our budget.
Any other questions for me?
Any other questions for her?
That's what we were paying way back then. That's what we used the invoices,
Oh, in probably 1991.
probably.
So you're talking this would be like $24,000 per year?
No,
Fourteen.
that would be, it'd be 14.
Where's that?
To the bottom. of
Oh,
the
down
first
here.
page.
That
Oh,
was just,
okay.
that was to make you feel better about the 14,000, to let you know that if you were paying for a city the size of Alburnett, and the chart I took straight from the state library's calculations, if you had your own library, it would cost your citizens about $36 per capita, or close to $24,000 a year. And obviously, the library that you could probably have for $24,000 a year would not even have Cedar Rapids ebook collection for that price. I mean, it literally costs us $28,000 a year just for our ebooks. So you're able to, for your 14,000, get access to probably many, many more items than you could if you had actually your own municipal library.
The thing I like about ebooks is you don't have overdose, it just
You
goes
don't.
off your phone.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Nora. Okay, next up, Steve Sodwasser.
You want me to just start talking, Dave?
Would you like me to do a little pre-background, or how do you want to handle it, Steve?
Go ahead, Guy, doesn't matter.
Steve obviously lives on Lori Drive, and during the course of finishing the storm sewer construction, he contacted me about that he wasn't happy with the way his driveway in turned out, and also one day, and you have a handwritten note from Steve you should have in your packet. If you look through it, Steve documents everything, so I won't go into the details, but basically a traffic cone blew over in strong winds and left a little approximately 3/8 inch deep blemish in the concrete. When Rachi's guys were finishing the dirt in the parking next to the driveway, they put a couple scratches in the surface of the concrete, and also ran over the very tip of the radius where it meets the street and broke off about a 2-inch chunk of the radius right at the very end. So it's about a 2x2 square. When they were doing that, Steve voiced his displeasure on the job. It's not the way he would have had it, not the way he had it before, etc. I checked in with Rachi, told him Steve was unhappy, and basically got the answer from them that if the city wanted to pay to replace the driveway, they would tear it out, but that the job was well within spec in any city around Cedar Rapids or Marion as far as the performance of the concrete. There's nothing that happened to the concrete that would diminish the performance over the years. It's not like it's a deep gouge, it's not like it's cracked or anything like that. And so basically they said there was nothing they were gonna do about it. And I just told Steve at that point, you know, you just need to bring it to the council and ask them what your opinion is on the driveway end. It's not to Steve's liking, you know,
Or Jill's.
or Jill's, and that's what it boils down to. But the concrete is sound, and it will, you know, it will handle the load of cars. There's no issue structurally with the concrete. So at that point, I'm assuming Steve is gonna take off and ask you what he would like to see done, so.
Yeah, I'll take over from here.
So if I may for just a second.
Yeah.
So Rachi said to you, it's within specs.
Absolutely, they would have had to been much more severe. I mean, the two scratches from the skid loader are minimal. We're talking literally just scratches on the concrete. The concrete was still fresh enough when the top of that traffic cone, it's one of those taller, heavy ones with the handle on the top. It probably a quarter of an inch deep, I suppose. It put a blemish in the concrete where it landed and hit. I think there's two, isn't there, Steve? One other small
There's a
one.
few down on the radiuses, and the one that's up near the top is deep enough to hold water. Because when it rained in December, there was a nice puddle of water in it.
But Rachi's have epoxied that since,
Correct.
so. But yeah, as far as, yeah, no, there's no structural issues with the concrete whatsoever. They flat out said we absolutely would not replace that of our own volition. If the city would like to pay for it or someone else would like to pay for it, they'd be happy to tear it out and put it in, but it meets specs and in fact is, in their words, is nowhere near a candidate for replacement. It is truly cosmetic, so,
That's what I figured they'd say.
yeah. So,
Okay, well, three things before I start with this. Is there anybody from Rothy here tonight? Because I don't know everybody and nobody from Rothy. Okay. Second thing, I got a library card last week, so I add one to that total. And the third thing, I'm really appreciative that you approved Steve's request because 15 years ago, it was first responders here that saved our daughter's life. And those kind of things go through your head. It's funny, because you have things come up 10, 15 years later, so it's good to see you're supporting the EMTs here. One thing that, I'll try to go off of things that Guy didn't mention. Rothy told me we will get you back the way you had it. Now, that wasn't the way we had it, okay? First of all, the radiuses are not the same. I walked out when they formed it, and it was going straight down. And Brian and Charlie happened to stop by tonight. I got home about 4:30. Brian was there looking at it when I got home, so we talked a little tonight. Charlie came shortly after Brian came. I appreciate you gentlemen coming. The radiuses, when they first formed it, were going straight, and then they took off like a mustache. I don't know, a foot, 6 inches, just really weird. I didn't quite understand that because I have radiuses at the top of the driveway. We have radiuses at the top of the driveway, but I wanted them to aesthetically match up. The gentleman I talked to, I think his name was Kent, was polite about it. He reformed it. He says, "This the way it was?" And I said, "No." He says, "Well, I don't really remember the way it was. All we wrote down is you had 2 feet of radius on each side." And I tried to explain to him the way I had it. We had it. He said, "Well, I can't do that." And I thought, well, I don't know why you can't do that. But I kind of compromised on that too. So when the cones tipped over, when we're having 40 and 50 mile an hour per gust of wind, and it was strong enough to tip over the Porta-John on our street, I'm thinking, well, why isn't anybody here on the street, first of all, and then why didn't they put like sandbags down? Luckily, the second cone that fell hit the form, right, it had another divot in that as well. And then down at the radiuses, it really bothered us that they're moving dirt at 5:30 at night. It's pitch dark, and we just had our cement poured the day before. We had our cement poured on the 10th, and they're running around in the dark with skid loaders, throwing what I consider not to be good dirt. It's got a lot of clay in it. I have a waterway, we have a waterway that Brian saw today. He goes, you got water problems here, don't you? I've had water problems here for 20 years, but we've always had a waterway here. So I was out with my shovel, because we had a lot of rain, and there's just this huge lake forming. Water wasn't getting out to the road, because of the way they left the dirt. And I went out there with a shovel, digging in this clay, and kind of messed up my back. Just had a physical therapy appointment today, and I know that I don't have to do anything because I know that's town property. But that waterway, water wasn't able to get out in December either. So I've had a lot of frustrations with this, and the main thing is, back when we built our house in '95, we waited like 10 months before we poured our driveway. We did it right. It had one little crack in the corner, probably from the storm sewer shifting. But it really, and I know aesthetics, a whole different story than code, but as a teacher, this would be, you can do better work than that. This is a do-over. And that's how I'd have handled that if it was one of my students. And the other thing is, if I was the town, I wouldn't pay for it. Because personally, if I was overseeing the project and I had to pay for it, which I did the first time, which we did the first time, I would say, you know, that all looks good except that bottom part. I'm gonna pay for everything but that bottom part. It's got scrapes on one end, it's got scrapes on the other end. It did hold water. Will the epoxy hold? If Jill and I are still here 20 years from now, what's that gonna look like? And are there gonna be cracks? And if I don't bring it up tonight, then I'm 70 years old and I'm looking out there and it's falling apart. It's our problem. So that's kind of a summary. I was willing to wait till spring for the pour. I don't know if that could have been done. I just felt like they really hurried. December 9th was a nice day. I said, where, you guys gonna pour today? No, we don't have enough men. So they waited till the 10th, which is an extremely windy day. And then, of course, the 11th was the wrap up, and then the bad weather, I think, came the 12th, I'm not sure. So, it's presented to you, and you guys will have to do what you feel you need to do. I think Ralphie should be held responsible for it personally.
I have a question for Matt. Is there anything with those radiuses that have anything to do with the ADA compliant things that they wouldn't have done it the way he wanted it?
Not with the radius, it's more sidewalks, sidewalk ramps, so.
The only other thing I can think of, and I wasn't there, but if they didn't have the right forms, they didn't have vendor board, I don't know. I can't speak for Rep.
And the decision doesn't have to be reached today either. I mean, if you guys wanna table it and look at it in springtime, I mean, there's no urgency now.
As far as the dirt and stuff, I don't think there's nothing that could be really even thought about doing anything until spring or anything like that, and see how that all works out anyway.
Well, the area, let me clarify a couple things for you. The area Steve was working on to get his water to flow was underneath a bush that we saved at his request.
True.
From tearing out. So the reason there's a little clay in it is because they couldn't just reach underneath there and replace topsoil, because they worked their butts off to save that bush. And I understand about the water flow, but the elevation of the street was not changed. You know, there was gonna have to be a waterway made one way or the other. The construction crew doesn't know how the water flows, so they can't put that back in. You know, if that part, I know it upset Steve, I understand, he's
Well,
told
the
me many
dirt's the
times.
least part of my worries.
Well, I understand, but you're alluding to the entire job in total. And what I'm saying is, they had a job to do. They had to put storm sewer in, and they had to replace all these driveway ends, and they did a really good job. It's to be noted that almost every other driveway end looks really good. It's extremely unfortunate that Steve, who is probably the most concerned about the looks of his driveway, had the most problems. And it's true, it is, because I looked at every driveway end on both streets, and there's very few with any blemishes of any kind whatsoever. It's unfortunate, it's terrible, but it's not like they did poor quality work through the entire project, is what I'm trying to say. So, yes, Steve's, it's got the blemishes on it, absolutely. You know, Rachi's had a guy moving dirt that night that probably didn't have the, I don't know how many hours in the skid loader it takes to qualify you to be a good skid loader operator, but that's what the foreman on scene told me. That guy was spreading dirt around. We're trying to get everything capped off before the weather got bad so that it was decent. They were working to make it better, and he scraped the concrete with the bucket. You know, he got a little rammy, and that's what happened. So, just, I'm not protecting Rachi, and I'm not trying to degrade what Steve has to say. I just want you to know what all
I'm
was
just
going
saying,
on.
What I was pointing out is really there's not much, as far as we're talking about the dirt issue, there's not really much you can do about the dirt issue until spring
Nope,
comes.
nope.
And that's what I was ruling,
Yeah.
that really, nothing can really be done
No,
much
I'm
about
not-
that.
Yeah, the concrete
The
is,
concrete,
I think,
The guy's already said they'll make the dirt right.
I haven't
I'm not worried
looked,
about the
I
dirt.
haven't been diligent enough to go up and really look at it, and I need to do that, and I apologize for
No,
not
that's
doing
all right.
that. So, that's what I need to do.
Steve, the radiuses, are they the same as the other approaches that all got poured, or what? Or why is yours different?
Most everybody's is straight.
what they did was they just went straight. Instead of coming down from the sidewalk straight and then doing a curved radius, they started at the sidewalk and angled both sides out. We actually, every driveway has more concrete in it than it had before, with the exception of Steve's, because he asked them to put it back the way it was.
Right.
And totally right, Steve, they probably could have taken a picture, done some more measuring, and tried at your request. I mean, they attempted to put your radiuses back in. They didn't get it right. I totally agree with you, but maybe they could have been a little more diligent to try and get that back better for them. But quite honestly, I like my driveway better now. I've got more room to turn in because they angled the driveway out the way they did. It makes it easier to pour. You know that. It's easier than using bend-a-board and making that curve. You just flare your forms out and pour it. They worked their butt off. John Gordon on Donald Drive had stenciling on the edges of his driveway that Dan Sherman put in when he built the house. John was able to come up with the stencil, and those guys put the stencil in the new concrete to match his old stuff. They said, we'll do that at no charge as long as we don't have to provide anything if you've got it, because it's just a real quick job to put the stencil in. They did that. That driveway looks beautiful. What I'm saying is, it's just really unfortunate. Steve had the two basic issues we had. There's one other on another driveway, but the two basic issues we had, that cone blowing over and the scratches from the skid loader, all happened to happen on Steve's driveway. Sucks. I don't know how else to.
Well, I think personally, they were in a hurry because it was getting late in the evening.
Well, and part of that worry, Steve, is to get done and get you people back in your driveways and get to not have that street tore up anymore too, you know. So.
But I also said that we would have accepted gravel and been okay doing it in the spring, not being in a hurry, because being at the end of the project and winter closing in, I wasn't in that hurry.
When did you say that you were fine with it being gravel for the winter?
Guy, did I tell you that?
Yeah, you did, but you don't string out a construction crew like that. First of all, you'll never get them back. And second of all, if you think they did a bad job this fall, they do a really crappy job if they have to come back in the spring and finish it.
And Chester and I talked about it, we pretty much said the same thing that day. That they probably won't come back.
I mean, the only thing we could have done was accept out that concrete work and, you know, allowed you X number of dollars to have it put back in the way you wanted it. But
I
that's,
wish we'd have done that, but it's over with now.
yeah, it's over with. That's a moot point at this point, so.
I think ultimately it's gonna come down whether or not the city's gonna pay to replace it, to make it the way you want to. And maybe that question's gonna be answered now, maybe it's gonna be answered in the spring. I will say this, I live on Donald Drive on the north side. My drive was all taken out, and it was replaced. And I understand that the need of the job had to be done. The crews were extremely polite and nice to work with.
Yes, they were.
But I will also say, not as an opinion, but as a point of fact, when they poured my drive, the radius to the west broke. It broke within a day or two of them pouring it. And I can only say that, as an opinion, that it was broke because there wasn't sufficient dirt underneath it. They used a skid loader or something. I pulled back my security camera video, and it appears that when they pulled over it with a skid loader, it collapsed underneath it. And then they had to come back, cut it, and re-pour a section over it. It looks fine. You can tell it's a second pour, but it looks fine. I understand that. And I take that as, well, we had to do the project. You can't have a collapsed, pipe running down the street. I get that. But I also understand your point of view as well.
Well, you two guys have seen my farm.
There's a gouge. I totally agree. They used epoxy to block it in. There's marks down on the side. Anyone here that goes up there and looks at it is gonna say, yep, you're right. There, and there. And there is a broke chip on the west end of it. Absolutely. Piece about that big. No doubt about it. And in the spring, unless somebody can predict exactly what's gonna happen, maybe something's gonna settle or do something different, I don't know. And if those pieces break like mine broke, they need to be fixed.
How long does Rachi stand behind, like if, let's just say in a month or whatever in the spring, all that stuff?
There's a performance bond included with that job, and I believe it's a couple years on the concrete work. If I remember, I'd have to look at it. I'd have to dig back through the original concrete. There's a performance bond on it. I think it is 2 years.
It's at least 2.
Yeah.
It's 2 or more.
Yeah.
Is that for like cracks and settling or what?
Yeah. And they told me the times that I had the foreman on the job, Leroy, that was there through the entire project. I had John Rachi look at it. I had Tim Williams, the estimator for Rachi, that was with us the whole time on the project, look at it. And they're all like, you know what? If there is any issue, if we develop a crack in any of these areas, you bet we're going to be back and we're going to take care of it because we want you to call us again. They will do that. It boils down to this, in my opinion, and from their experience doing projects like this, that's our property. That's city property. It's in the parking area. It's our concrete. It's really too bad, but it is totally the city council's choice whether they repair it or not. And if you repair Steve's cosmetic damage, be ready. Every concrete job you do in this town where you have to tear up someone's driveway in, it's going to be on the gnat's butt perfect because you'll set precedence here. So that is why there is code, and Cedar Rapids is set up code. If it's not going to hurt the performance of the concrete over the years, it gets left alone. And I did a little research to back that fact up too after hearing it from Rachi, because I didn't want to just take their word for it. They might have just been saying, well, we don't want to come back and deal with that. I didn't feel like that was the case, but I totally feel for Steve. If it was my driveway, I'd be just as upset as him. Mine turned out beautiful. Could have been.
Could have been. Might be in the spring.
Might be. Maybe I'm back. Maybe I'm interested in that chair instead of this chair.
Spring. You never know.
But yeah, it stinks bad for them. Because they take very good care of their place. Their home is beautiful. They did it all right. absolutely, but as far as the city goes, there's nothing wrong with that concrete, so.
Kind of opinion of listening to everybody here that I think this needs to be maybe relooked at in the spring when things have all taken place. Nothing's gonna get settled tonight. I think that, maybe a look late spring after we have our freezes and thaws, and who knows, he might have a huge crack form in his thing and it has to get fixed, you know, who knows what's gonna happen down the road. Like you already had one, they could have one, so I think this is something we need to kinda just take a look at late spring and go from there.
You could rip it all out today, you wouldn't wanna report right now anyway.
Yeah,
No, we know that.
yeah.
And
I think maybe we ought to do a little bit better. We've got a performance bond for how long? Or is it 2 years?
2 to 3. I don't, we'd have to look it up,
Whatever.
I'm not sure.
If that falls apart in that period of time, then we'll do some,
But what is falling apart? There's already a chip off it. Is that falling apart, or is that, now that's just a chip because they ran over it?
If you wanna get on, in Cedar Rapids website, see, they have, all of they have the regulations. It has to be a piece so big, broken off before they replace it. It has to be a gouge so deep before they'll replace it. It has to be a crack, that goes all the way through for so many feet before it will be replaced. I mean, it's all there. It's.
Yeah, and for code, I understand all that, and it'll serve us.
Like I said, I think the best thing is for us just to take a look at it in spring and
We'll
see what's
revisit,
going on, 'cause
absolutely.
nothing, we can keep talking and
Yeah.
talking and nothing's gonna get.
But the bottom line is,
Yep.
it's not the way it was.
No, there isn't a driveway out there that's the way it was. They're all different. Every one of them's different, so, you know, we gotta look at it that way too, so, I mean, so. Okay, let's move on. Alan, you're up.
2.5 years ago, May of 2013, I redid a section of my driveway from the sidewalk to the street. And the reason why I did that is because it had settled 3 inches or whatever. So I had a couple guys come in and bust it out and haul it away and pour new concrete and the rebar and stuff. And my total bill was $1,077.26. Or if I could get reimbursed for some of that. Because now I got another new driveway last month, but the reason why I did it 2.5 years ago was because it had settled.
So in other words, that was due to the faulty, storm sewer.
Alan, how much did you say that was?
$1,077.26.
Did that include, the panel that Matt and Michael took out of your sidewalk to your house?
Oh, yeah, it did. So that would be,
That's like a quarter, yeah, I get
yeah.
that.
Explain it to me again, I'm a little slow on that one. You put this in, they did the work, it went away? Is that a result of the,
Yes, my driveway had settled
right,
like 3 inches from the driveway to the curb.
right?
It had settled, so I didn't like jumping over the hump every time I pulled in and out of the driveway, so I redid it.
Okay.
But do we know that that was because of the storm sewer? Or it was, you know what I'm saying? Or was it when
Same area.
it was built? I'm just bringing up
We don't know.
scenario, you know? I suppose we could look at the pictures on the storm sewer in front, you know, of your house and see if it's collapsed and if it wasn't collapsed, but I'm just throwing that out. So,
Did you,
Sorry.
did you approach the city on this about it or anything? About this fall
I
or,
think Steve was city guy at that time, and I think I said something, and
but you didn't?
No, I
don't
didn't.
remember
I didn't
a meeting
approach
or
the city.
anything like that.
and I contemplating about, like in the new area, when they pour in a curb, they take the grinder and grind out the curb
Yeah.
And I said something to Steve, I didn't think that would be the right way to go about it, so.
It's a really good thing you didn't do that, because now they poured it back and it would have
Right.
been, well, I guess they poured back the curb anyway.
Yeah. The majority, the worst damage on Lori, I mean, we'd have to look at footages and measure where Alan's driveway is, but the worst damage on Lori was the first several, 100 to 150 feet from the center manhole. So I'm thinking your driveway would be in the worst. I can look that up if you want me to and look at the TV footage and see where some of the worst collapse. It was obvious my drive was terrible. That's immediately where the worst collapsing was on Donald Drive. I mean, it stands to reason, but I can definitely look it up if you want me to and verify. Could have been a combination of just natural settling, you know, whatever, and the storm sewer, but, you know, easily could have been storm sewer.
What about the road just outside of your, was the paving cracked or anything? Like, cause I know there was some bad spots.
My place was really bad. There was a big place that was caved off towards the
Was it?
driveway.
There's,
I don't remember. I looked at so much of it, I don't remember.
I think I remember the road, but from Allen's to like Amanda's being broken up.
Well, and that's where they went deeper. They went up until right before your driveway, they were only cutting out about 4 foot of curb and gutter. And when they got to close to your place, they jumped up to like 6 feet worth of curb and gutter. So that would indicate that there was more cracked. The reason they went deeper into the road to get it, so.
I went out to the manhole
Yeah.
right in front of their houses.
Yeah, because the manhole is by,
it's in our property.
it is in your property.
Yeah.
Well, and that's definitely where the worst, I can look it up, no problem. In fact, as we go through the meeting, I could probably look at it right here. But, I can, if you guys wanna move on and let me look at it, maybe I can find it. I'm not positive I can, but I can try.
Come back to it. So, okay.
And you'll need a statement, a bill or something, an itemized thing or something presented to get it through.
Yep.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. Yes, thank you.
Okay, persons wishing to speak on items not on the agenda may be heard at this time at a 5-minute limit. Is there anyone that wants to speak?
Yeah, y'all know me by now about the urban chickens.
Mhm.
Darren and I had a good conversation with all of his adjacent neighbors. We got all of their written approval, that they have no problems with us having the chickens there. They're actually kind of happy about it. And then we took a training class, and we got that all taken care of with Kelly, who was here for the public forum last week, and was at the second city council meeting that we met about the chickens. And we had the public forum last week, of course. I know you weren't here, and Dave wasn't here, but there weren't any opposition. And so we just asked you to move forward with allowing us to have up to 6 hens at Darren's house. Please. Do you have anything to add?
Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Okay, if not, we'll go on with, that's coming up later on, so. We'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have any additional bills?
Yeah, I have one, Jeannie neighbor turned one in, the garden club, it was $100 for the Christmas stuff that they put out in the pots. Said she plans on leaving the greenery there and maybe Valentine's Day putting something red in it.
They're still under their lap. About what we
Oh,
want.
yeah.
Okay.
This was just how we allotted them up. I think I gave them 2 something last time.
Okay.
I think a lot of this, they're even finding stuff at home, or a lot of the greenery, they were getting some from Kenny's, was this trimming trees, and, yeah. They economize.
I move we approve the consent agenda with the addition of the one bill.
Motion been made to approve the consent agenda with the motion, addition of one bill. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. City maintenance report?
Okay, I'm gonna have trouble, that's gonna take me longer, by the time I find the right video and get it brought up, it's gonna take me a little while, so we might have to put this on the back burner for a little bit. Okay. We'll start out with the water department. Some of you may notice the chlorine detectors were a little affected by the cold weather. Makes the alarm go off, the light flashes, I got several calls. Thank you all, I mean, don't stop calling, but if it is super cold, that could be it, and there's really nothing can be done. I don't wanna shut them off, because if we really do have a leak, I won't know it, but the number will escalate greatly. The number raises, and when it gets to a certain level, the detector goes off, and that's why the red light flashes. And so I can tell by looking at the number if it's really a leak or if it's the cold weather messing with it. But I want to thank you all for the ones that did call, for letting me know. Just in case you don't know. I mean, it wasn't high enough that it set the alarm off and dialed the city phone, but it was close. So.
Is it back and get a phone call?
Yeah, so either that or I need to check the dialer and make sure the dialer's working, but I think it's gotta get to a 2.0, and it got up to a 1.5 and 1.6 on the two detectors, and that's not even danger level, it just is the beginning stages of the alarm, so. But yeah, please do not be bashful about calling, no problem there. There is a Iowa Rural Water Conference in February that I would like to attend. It's their annual conference. We get a lot of help and a lot of assistance from Iowa Rural Water. Joe Finch came in and helped us a ton while we were transitioning through city employees, and it has a total of 15 hours of CEUs, so 1.5 actual CEUs if you go to all 3 days and take all the classes available. It's February 22nd through the 24th. Cost is $325. They have discounted rooms at the Holiday Inn downtown Des Moines if we mention the conference at $95 a night, which is pretty reasonable. First registration starts at 9. I definitely could just go early Monday morning and keep it to 2 nights in the motel without any problem. John has been working out great, helping with the snow plowing, and I've taught him to do the basic sampling and recording of the meter numbers, so I feel better about leaving for a couple days, so Sharon doesn't have to do it all that way. He can pick up a little of that slack, and if we do get a little snow event or something, he can handle it while I'm away. So I'll throw that out there if you're willing. Get to meet more people and network a little bit more.
What's it cost?
$325. It includes several meals, or I think 2 meals a day while you're there are included in the price, and the CEUs, and it's a whole, you name it, besides the classes. Joe Finch, our representative, said they've got 2 keynote speakers this year that he's confident the number of people attending is gonna double on the days that those guys are talking. They're very well respected, so the people that can't be there for all 3 days are gonna show up to hear these 2 guys talk. So that's kind of what motivated me to want to go to this one, so.
Do you get credit for this, credit for your?
Yes, absolutely.
Make a motion that we send him to that convention.
The motion to send Guy to a convention in Des Moines, 2 nights? 2 nights? Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okey-doke. This is kind of an old wound that I'm gonna open up, but I kinda have to because she asked me about it. 203 Roosevelt Street, the dual water meters in the basement. I went in and did Susan Meyer's sump pump inspection. She doesn't have a sump pump, and then had me in the basement and showed me the situation with the water meters. She is planning to bring it up again, so you probably will hear from her. So I'm laying the groundwork now, wondering what you want me to do. I mean, if you look at our ordinance book, it says every house has to have its own tap to the main. And it doesn't really appear to me that it does. Steve, do you know, is there 2 shut-offs out?
I don't think there is.
It's just one, and then they split it, yeah. see, Sharon thought that too, and that's the way it looks to me when you look at the plumbing in the basement, there are not 2 taps, so. The research I've done says that means it is Dan Sherman's responsibility to supply a tap to that house in the back. I guess what I would like to do with your blessing is go talk with Dan and see if, let him know that we've researched this out and that just for, everybody's safety on the liability end of things and that part, that it would be better if we could somehow get those separated. Right now, for you guys who weren't part of this, there are 2 lines coming into this lady's basement. There are 2 meters side by side. The one meter feeds her house, the other meter goes to the one behind it. And it goes through her basement, through the length of her basement, to go out the wall to go to the other house. It was a father-son scenario back in the day, whatever, that's how it got plumbed. So, she's let it rest. I know there's conflict and there's past things, but she says she's gonna come back, and she's gonna, she can't get Dan to cooperate. She said, I didn't get any satisfaction from the city, I want it taken care of, so she sounds quite prepared. I'm hoping to head something off here. I don't know if it's possible, but with the school doing the work through the backside, they're gonna be digging, they're gonna be in that area, and we have a water main, because we have a main that feeds the 2 hydrants that are on the backside of that school. So I'm wondering if this could be a perfect time, especially because Dan has the ability to actually dig himself, to tap into that main rather than, because obviously the ones that know about it, they have to go through the entirety of this person's yard to get out to the street to get to the water main, unless there's a different solution. Well, I see the main on the backside of the school as being a possible solution for everything. So unless you don't want me to do anything or whatever, I just thought I might contact Dan and tell him that another fight might be coming. Maybe we could figure something out here. What's your opinion?
Where's the shut off for the second one?
It's not right down there in her
Next
basement.
to hers.
There's a 2 quarter turn ball valves, 2 meters, and then they split, and then the other house that doesn't have the meter in it has a shut off in their basement.
Oh, they have a shut off too.
Yeah, they got
right,
just
they can kill it too. But
yeah, they can kill it, and
what's the saying? They'd wanna.
yeah.
risk
So
that.
guy, you think there's one water box out front and it
And one, yeah, and
probably
it's,
tees and goes in, or no, it tees in the house.
I think it tees in the house, or, well, there's an abandoned well in play too. There's an old well by this lady's garage that was the water source, so my best assumption is the water line from the city's going into the old well, and then they're splitting, and then they connected at the old well and came into the big house, and the big house always did supply the water to the little house, so they just didn't change anything, they just widened it off at that point and put another meter in there. I mean, it was obviously the easiest thing to do at the time, but.
Dan did offer, when I was a city guy, to dig it up and just run a line down her yard, and she would not give him an easement to do that. She refused. I mean,
The whole situation's not easy.
because he was gonna take it out of the basement, just run it down and reconnect it, and she wouldn't go for it. And I did suggest at one time that water main at the school, and they didn't want to tear up the driveway.
But now it's tore up, so that's
Oh,
why
the
I'm
driveway
thinking,
is?
yeah, they're gonna have to redo it when they're all done, cause this spring actually would be perfect, cause they're gonna fill in that alcove back there to expand the kitchen, and they're gonna have all that destroyed, so if they're digging, and that's what I wanna attempt anyways, to try and work through it that way.
I think it'd be a good idea to do what you said, Gil, with Dan, and to explain to him,
Okay,
to go ahead and look into that
yeah,
water line up there.
and I'll just,
Either that, or if you don't want to, you can go Kurt Roosevelt Street.
yeah. Yeah, the problem is he's gotta get access, that's what Steve was just talking about though, he's gotta go through her property to get to Roosevelt, and
She's
she's,
not gonna give him access.
well, she's got a pretty nice privacy fence, I'm sure she doesn't want her backyard tore up, but yet she wants the water line, now she's gonna have to give on something. And
was
so
gonna
I
say,
laid the ground.
She wants her cake and ice, and
Yeah.
ice and both.
I laid the groundwork that she's gonna have to give some to here, so I don't know if she's responding or not yet. It was one contact. Well, I'll work on it, I guess. I just want you to know what I'm
Is there
doing.
any sort of utility easement for some reason in between those houses?
We'd have to dig, but I doubt it. I don't, when you look it up on the assessor site, there's nothing.
There's not an alley through there, is there?
It's just,
There's not an alley through there, is there? I didn't think there was, when I was looking at the map, I didn't see any.
But is there sewers
Huh?
running
Is
along
there
too?
storm sewer run up through there?
Yeah, we don't know.
Maybe sand.
They'll do that.
I'll see what I can
Check
work
it
out.
see what
Okay.
happens.
Onto our sewer system, we had, I've had Busy Sewer in town. It's a company that's, out of Missouri, headquartered in Missouri, but there's an office in Mason City, and they're doing a lot of work in this area. Came and look at, we've got at least two manhole structures that are leaking badly, and it's causing part of our problem with our inflows, or infiltration, I should say. The one's right down on the south end of town by Dan McMurrin's apartments, and then the other one is up at the end of Lorry Drive, right on Alburnett Road, Main Avenue. They're both leaking like a sip. We're just taking groundwater in. I had this gentleman take a look. He sent me a proposal. I had a guy from a company in Cedar Rapids called Save Our Sewers come and look, and he hasn't got back to me yet. And then I called Municipal Pipe, and unless something changes, I am through with that company, because he didn't even want to come look at it. He just said, well, we'll be there all day. It's $395 an hour, $205 an hour to travel, and then $3.95 an hour and $10 a gallon for the chemical grout to fix the manhole. I'm like, you don't even want to take a look at them? Do you have a minimum number of manholes? Nope, that's just what it is. So then the quote I did get from Vision Sewer is $215 an hour. That includes their travel, so you're paying pretty good money to get them here, but it's $215 across the board. Their product is $2 a gallon higher, but he's claiming that we better have 4 manholes lined up to get done in one day. So we could get 4 fixed for considerably less money. I don't know where the Save Our Sewer guys is gonna come in, except right now his crew is not very busy and he would like to work. I'm not positive this is the right time of the year to do this, because we kinda need the water flowing in to see if the grout that they use actually gets all the leaks stopped. But they both did say if there is a leaker, they'll come back. And it's no charge to fix something they missed, so I guess I'm not too concerned. It has shrunk a lot, but if you wanna pass that around, that is the chemical grout that they will put in. They will drill holes through the manhole structure wall and pump this product in. It looked like maple syrup when he poured it in that cup, and as soon as it hits water, it's like expanding foam. It just blows up and fills all the voids and cavities and stops the leak. It just plugs it. They send
So
it
they
to,
pump it through and then it comes back?
yeah, and it migrates around the outside of the tube too, so that it doesn't just, they don't have to like drill it at the leak and it just fixes that leak. The stuff seeps the water and migrates around the structure to fill it. You can go a step further, but I don't think we need to, and actually, once you get the leak stopped, you can line the inside of the manhole structure. But these structures look pretty good, so I don't think we need to go anywhere there. But,
What's the life on that stuff?
indefinite, near as they can tell me. I mean, it's been around for quite a while now, and they haven't, unless you're, and maybe Matt can chime in if he's had any experience, but unless your structure actually shifts and changes, you should be it should be an indefinite fix. So, but we're taking a ton of water in those 2 manholes alone, and I haven't seen any other ones. I've had 50 of them open. I haven't seen the other ones leaking like those 2. But if we're gonna have them come in at some point, I'm gonna go looking again if we get some warmer weather, if the water's flowing, and see if I can't find some, more leakers, and have them spend a full day anyway. So
Did you, the one on, what is that, North Street or whatever? Did
Yeah.
you ever get that manhole off?
No.
Wasn't the asphalt on over or something?
Well, and that's the other thing too that we noticed, the one that's up to the north didn't get put in right, that the chimney, they call it, the ring that the lid sits in, got put on regular untreated lumber underneath, and then they poured the concrete around it. Well, the one that's at North Street, I'm sure that's what's happened, but I still haven't got that lid open yet. And I'll have to break it if I have, something. We'll either have to completely take it out or whatever, but I'm assuming that's what happened there, because it's about to happen at the one at the end of Lorick too. It's sitting on that untreated wood. That wood is however many years old now, it's rotting away, and that chimney's about to settle too. So both these companies will repair that while they're here too, when they're down in the hole doing the grouting. They'll fix that up. If it takes a new chimney, so be it. It'll be a little more money, but while they're there, it's gonna be way cheaper than hiring somebody to come in and tear it up and, and fix it later, so.
So they drill holes from the inside out, if
Yep.
I'm remembering right.
Yep.
And then they'll just go and it's just kinda like the concrete lift.
Yep.
Deal. They
Yep.
just.
They pump it in,
around it.
and when they,
Yeah, they do the whole thing or just where all the cracks are?
yeah, they do, they actually look for leaks. They actually, ideal time to do it is when the ground is saturated and the water's coming in like a sieve. They hate doing it because they're getting rained on the whole time they're in the deal, but that's the best time, because then they can pump that stuff in and they can just watch the leaks disappear. And then, okay, we got these, now we need to go over here and pump some more in over here, and then we got this batch of leaks sealed up, and so I think that would cut our water down. Just when they were here looking in the past week, there's still water like crazy. I realize we don't have frost in the ground very far yet, but tons of water flowing in to those structures. That's kind of a pretty big deal there. So something to look at. I'll get the other quote and we'll look at some more.
Anyway, why that water's flowing, to get a video of it, so that when they would come back, that they, with some
Yeah.
type of reference point, they would know where those
Yeah.
leaks were if it
Yeah.
wasn't leaking.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thought, if we're gonna get them here,
Yep.
and it's not leaking, if we had some type of video or some type of
Sure.
thing that would show them where those leaks are,
Yep.
might help.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. This is mostly just warning you that I'm gonna probably recommend it down the road once we get a scope of exactly what it'll cost, cause I think that'll help to shore up our deal. Along those same lines, I've got 65 sump pump inspections or so roughly left. I'm gonna start knocking on doors. I haven't had to yet. I keep getting one here and there. But I'll start knocking on doors pretty quick just to try and get those finished up, and I'll feel good about going into the spring. If we get a couple manholes fixed and get all the sump pumps shut off, then we really should have a good way to look and find if we're taking groundwater somewhere else. It'd be a lot easier to find if we have a cracked pipe or whatever somewhere, because we'll be able to see the flow a lot more easily. So that's going pretty good. Haven't had any problems with sump pump inspections from anyone yet. No one's been.
How are you on rechecks, the ones that?
There's probably half of the ones that I found were violating that haven't called me back yet, and that'll be part of my knocking on doors. I'll do a little reminder and say, hey, I haven't forgot, let's get it done. So so those are going okay. We did do an extra discharge. It was not outside of the discharge period. We can discharge till the 21st of December, and with all that October, November rain, I discharged for about 5 days, called the DNR. The only thing that was not totally as they like it was I couldn't take a pre-discharge sample and have it back before I let it go, because I needed to let it go, and they said, well, with all the stormwater, we're not worried, let it go, take the pre-discharge, bring it up, came back great, so no issues. They said the only thing we're gonna have a problem with is if it comes back bad, then, we're gonna have to deal with that, but I wasn't worried either. That, you could actually see a couple feet down into the lagoons when I opened the valve up, so, got rid of several thousand gallons of that rainwater, shut it off on the last day of actual discharge that were allowed, so we should be good going into spring as far as levels go. Lift station pump. we got a quote back from Quality Flow. We got our old pump back that was burnt up, that Iowa Pump Works told us was non-repairable, or wasn't worth repairing. We got it back from them, sent it to Quality Flow, who is the KSB dealer. I got a call and a quote back, $2,806 to fix the pump. He feels like if they rebuild it, it's good for 10 or 12 years of service should we put it back in the pump, in the hole full time. This versus Iowa Pump telling us that it's not worth rebuilding, and here's our quote on a new one for $6,500. Quality Flow's new price, should we have needed to go that way, is $6,200, so they would have been the better price anyway. So basically our options on the lift station are fix our old pump for $2,806, and that could be a smidge less if we're not asking them to bring it back right away when they get it done, and wait till they have a truck going by. We could possibly knock another $100 off of that because he's got a delivery price built in here. So that versus buying a new pump to have on the shelf, I would say rebuild the old one. It's a no-brainer. But you're gonna have to give me the go ahead to tell them to rebuild it and drop it by when they have a chance. So if that's what you want to do.
That's just totally rebuilding it and making
Yeah.
it, like putting a new rebuild kit in it.
Yeah, all new bearings, all new seals. He said the pump was actually in terrific shape. It really was in good shape. And that's the difference between Iowa Pump is not a KSB dealer, and they wanted to sell us their pump, you know, and that's what it boils down to. So I'm just glad they got it back. They were good enough to get it back to us. It was in pieces on a pallet, shrink wrapped, but everything was there, so.
Well, I entertain a motion if you want.
I'll make a motion that we rebuild our pump rather than buy new.
Motion's been made to rebuild the pump. Do we have a second? Second, Charlie checking it. All those in favor? Okay.
Okay. Everything sewer-wise is working good. With that pump rebuilt and having our spare back, we'll be back to 100% up to snuff, near as I can tell, especially as we continue to reduce the stormwater going up there. The final bill for Donald and Lori Drive is in. I'm sure you saw the number. It's much larger than we thought. I went out and did a little measuring today. Their quote, Rachi's quote, called for taking out 2 foot of curb and gutter to replace the pipe. They had to do 3 foot or more, up to 6, in a couple instances 8 feet into the street on Lori Drive. Donald Drive, we all know that was a disaster with all the broken concrete. So, you know, that is where our extra expense is coming from. That and the fact that they had to dig out the dirt underneath the street and replace with aggregate to hold the new street up because they couldn't get any kind of compaction on that soil. So near as I can tell, that bill is straightforward and straight up. It's way more than we wanted, but they didn't do anything billing wise that we don't have in the street, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it stinks, but
It's unforeseen,
we gotta get
and you want it done right.
everything that we paid extra for is stuff that we would have not have any idea of knowing when we started this project,
Exactly.
so. It is what it is, I guess. That's all I have for sewer and storm sewer. On to maintenance. Started work tearing the office out of the shop, and got a lovely surprise when we pulled the paneling off. There are 3 asbestos cement board panels in that wall. There is no rhyme or reason for them. They do not go all the way to the ceiling. They do not go the entire length of the wall. I don't know what anyone was thinking when they built that, but it's almost like they were getting rid of them. So they tacked them up to the wall and then covered them up with particle board. So to do it right, it has to be abated. I have a contract with the company out of Manchester. They're gonna come on the 27th. It's $850. They're gonna take them out. They enclose the area, take it down, package it up, take it to the landfill, clean up after they're done, take their little structure down, and then it's all gone away. But
with
Yeah.
their samples.
Yeah, I just got the paperwork today, they filed the form with the state, which you have to file in order to let them know, and you can't start work for 10 days until after they receive the form, and the ball is all rolling. The other quote I got from another company was 1,200 and some, so, I just signed the authorization. I mean, there's no turning back now, I've got stuff tore out, they have to come out of there, so. And then, as soon as they get that done, I'll be able to finish the project. I've got brackets made and hung on the wall to hold the furnace. Steve's Heating and Air Conditioning will be coming to move the furnace as soon as they get a minute. And the rest of the office will come down and I'll rebuild some shelving and move some things around and the project will be done. We're really close, except for that little hang up, so. Then that'll be all open. Welcome any of you to come up anytime you want and see the progress. Just pop in if you're in town or got time, no problem there. Oh, and I forgot, I was gonna start at the beginning of this, Brian and Charlie, or any of the older ones too, if you are interested at all in seeing the systems.
The older ones.
Yeah, yeah. If you wanna see the asbestos, oh, no. Wanna tour the lagoons, just look me up, I'll take you around.
He'll take you on a
I'll hook
boat
you up.
ride.
Absolutely. I gotta go get the SS Walker from up in Walker, cause it went back, but anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Chester and I had a conversation about possibly doing a little bit of insulating in that shop building. We looked at the the utility bills. Basically, summer to winter is a $500 swing, so you can pretty much, I mean, it's a $1,000 bill in the winter, $500 bill in the summer. $500 is mostly pumping water, because that's where 2 of our 3 wells are, and that's where a lot of electricity usage is going, so you can, safely say $400 to $500 a month in the winter to keep it heated. It's a cement block building with a precast concrete roof. I'm sure it's probably got a little layer of insulation up there under the roof coating, maybe, whatever. We were talking about a couple of things. One big thing is probably heat loss through the roof. Wondered about getting some price, and I've already started to make some calls. I don't have anybody here yet about spray foam on that precast ceiling, because there's no other real way to do it. And then if that is a big help, so be it. But the only other way to add insulation value to that building would be to strip it and tin it, and get an insulation layer on the outside. It would be incredibly labor intensive to try and do that insulation layer on the inside. By the time we pull everything off the wall that's on the wall, we have huge electrical panels, et cetera, to me, the only way, if you were gonna add insulation, would be to strip it, put, foam board and tin on the outside. I'm not sure it's gonna help enough to cover the cost. It might get some prices on what what it would take to do, but the ceiling, I think, could potentially be a benefit to keep that cost down a little bit.
If I remember right, where that ceiling comes down on them block walls, there were air gaps in that and all sorts of things in that quite a few years ago, and I know we tried to do something to take care of them, and I can't remember what it was.
I feel like it's sealed up because.
Is it sealed up?
Yeah,
now
because
good?
when the lights are off in there, it is pitch black, on
Okay.
a bright sunshiny day. You can't see any light blowing through anyway.
I know at one time there was problems, and I think we did something, and I'm talking, this was probably 10 years ago or whatever, because that used to be where the well tank was
Yes.
for the city.
Yes. Well,
That
the
was
other,
our holding tank.
the other,
That was 3 years ago.
It was when Tom Swoboda was mayor.
Yeah.
Cause he had Moyle come in
Moyle,
and they
that's
jacked the
right.
roof up and then
Yep.
inserted.
I knew we
I
did
think
something.
they did a
couldn't
good job,
remember
it
when
just took
was.
forever to do it.
yeah, I think it's tight. It's just concrete isn't a very good insulator. Is what it boils down to. So.
And heat losses mainly through the roof.
Through the roof, yeah. Not a high priority project, maybe that's something we'd look at for the next winter and put it in the budget or something, but just something I'm throwing out there for you to think about, that maybe we could, if we could trim a couple $100 off the heat bill every month through the winter. It's not a ton, but maybe it's worth doing. The other part of that is sealing up. I don't think there's any gaps, but that spray foam would seal any possible problems. And The other thing I found kind of funny, evidently, there was a concrete floor in that building, and rather than tear it out and replace it, they poured over top. Because as I'm tearing the wall out to the office, the stud wall is 6 inches into the concrete. So they obviously just put a little forming next to that stud wall and poured all the way around it. So I'll have to get some Saccharine and fill that in once I'm done tearing out, but I just found that a little bit comical. But that was probably the best.
Well, and the other, I now that because I was up there helping Brad at the time, and they took out like two, what do they call them, cores of brick, the
Oh, 2 courses of concrete?
Yeah, they took those out and put new ones in because the moisture had attacked that so much that it was actually collapsing.
Oh.
So you might want to just look all that over, you know, before we.
Because I remember it was quite.
It was expensive and very labor intensive.
Yeah, it was labor intense, and we were going to lose the roof of the building.
Yeah, the building was going to collapse on itself.
I see the work. I know where you're talking.
Okay.
You can see it, yeah, because it's fresher, obviously. But anyway, throwing that one out for future. Generators. We had Altorfer come and do all the generator maintenance that he could. Can't remember exactly what I told you. The one at the lift station had a bad battery and a bad charger. That's all repaired. I've got it on weekly schedule to start and run 20 minutes, do a transfer, the whole works, it's fine. The one at the shop never was having any problems. It was doing its cycle every week. It starts, runs 20 minutes, no problem. He changed the oil, serviced it, everything's good. When we got to the fire station, he couldn't make it run, period. I didn't realize it wasn't running. It hasn't run for a long time. And first thing he found is it runs on propane. It was getting no propane. So he ordered in a fuel mixer, determined that was bad, put that on. He got it installed and still wouldn't start, and determined there was no spark. And so he and I were talking, and he's like, you really want to pay my hourly rate to put coils in this thing? Because that's probably what it is. It's a two-cylinder Honda. You know, probably the coils are bad. And I'm like, nope, got it. So he went about his way, and he serviced it. He changed the oil and all that business. But I ordered coils up at Midway Outdoor, put the 2 coils in it, and got it running, and runs beautifully. Thank goodness it didn't get damaged sitting there not running for all these years. Generates fine. Got the timer on that set, so it cycles, and every 14 days it starts and runs. So all 3 are up to snuff. So all is well that way. So nice to have the maintenance guy come in though and give everything a thorough looking over, especially on those bigger units. Next. I just lost my list here. That's all I have for maintenance. I think if it's all right, Sharon and I will look into, we just heard that Rockwell Collins has a pile of money, in the words of the person that told me, sitting there for green space projects. And with the new property that we got from Naylor, even if it's just to get it leveled and seeded to decent grass, you know, we'll have to look and see what the requirements are, but we'll see if we can't get out there and get some grant money to work on that in the spring. And I heard there's another company, another larger employer in town that has some projects like that too. So it'd be nice to get it at least so it's, you know, we can take the ball game off of Longworth and put it on a grassy area, you know, not on the street. It'd be kind of cool. Nothing's happened yet, but it may, so that'd be all right. So we'll investigate unless anybody has any objection to that. Back to street, snow removal equipment's working good, no issues there. Broke one little bolt on the one plow is all that's happened through all the snow. And that brings us to Mood Heart. Oh, sorry, yes.
Before we do on the Mood Heart, want to go back to your certificates?
Oh, yes. I was asking Sharon about when I got the bonus for having my certificates, and she looked up in the employee handbook. I would like to have my bonus for my 3 certificates now, if that's all right, and just make it an annual thing. It's $250 per certificate annually to be added to the salary. And so, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter, but now's just as good a time as any. So,
question, didn't Ed at one of the meetings go ahead and we voted on giving him that money?
That was just part of his hiring.
After he got his licenses, I said something to, if you remember that meeting,
Yeah.
about you getting the money.
You said you wanted to get all.
Yeah, but we didn't actually vote on it, did we? You just brought it
I thought
up,
we
I
did.
thought.
No.
We did not vote on it? Okay, I'm mistaken. I thought we
Okay.
voted on it.
It don't matter to me, I
Okay,
mean, it
that's
just,
fine. I thought we'd already approved it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
I
Steve
think,
just always picked what time worked best for him, so.
I think what you're maybe talking about is the raise when he got his.
I'm talking about when he told us and came in here and passed those certificates, and I brought up, I mentioned that he was supposed to get that money.
you did, you definitely did, but I don't think that was part of a vote.
Okay, I thought it was, I
I'm
apologize.
not positive. And it, there again, it doesn't matter.
No.
I mean, and if you chose that you didn't wanna, you do it until March, I don't care either, just, you know, I brought it up because, you know, we were talking about it the other day, so.
So is this the time you want it every
Yeah,
year?
that's fine.
Cause it's a.
Quite honestly, it doesn't matter to me.
Well, I
when they
mean,
come.
we gotta set it up, and see, I mean,
Yeah,
this
no,
meeting, the
this
month
is
that
fine.
we do it every year.
This is fine if it's okay with you.
Entertain a motion?
I'll so move, we pay his $250 for his 3 certificates in
Per
January. Per $350, yeah, on the, for 3 per certificate, in January.
Motion made to pay Guy's certificate money. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Last big item is Mood Heart. Sharon and I met with Maggie from Spear Financial, the other day, which you're gonna get a whole blast of this, so basically, all I'm doing is trying to lay the groundwork. But, Sharon has done a fantastic job with the budget as far as having money available for the right type of thing, according to the goals that you guys worked on, and just the flat out need of Mood Heart being worked on. I think that needs to be a priority project. I contacted Matt about going ahead and tightening up the numbers and really looking at it to determine where we'll really be cost-wise. As far as financially goes, you know, it will take a GO bond to get done what we need to do, but the good news is, you know, we can throw cash at it too, which is no different than buying a car or your house or whatever. And Sharon probably has a lot more she can say about that.
Yeah, Maggie came down, she looked at our annual report from last year, she looked at our balance sheet from this year, we went over what our GO bond is right now, what our SRF is right now, how much money we're taking in on local option, how much money we're taking in on road use. She was gonna throw all this together, she felt very, very confident that we can easily bond for this and probably not even do a levy for it, because we could either use our local option tax to make the bond payment easier, or a portion of, with the road use tax, we're getting about 15,000 to 20,000 more a year than we were getting. So we could use that portion plus local option, so we could bond for this and not even do a levy. But she said she's gonna go back and she's gonna work out 3 or 4 scenarios and come down and present to us.
And with that being said, knowing that it's definitely a possible project, that thing's coming apart even worse. It's shredding the freeze thaw that we've had already. It's coming. There's no going back now as far as I'm concerned. So it boils down to options, total cost. Working out sidewalk might be a little bit of a head scratcher, that there just isn't a ton of room between that street edge and the houses on that street. I did a lot of measuring. We've got a lot of 24-foot streets in town, but that particular street appears narrower because the houses are closer to the street, and so that makes it kind of a unique situation. I do think that we need to widen the street. I think it's only prudent, given the size of vehicles today and the amount of vehicles that we have and drive, to make parking a little better, a little easier to travel on that street. But sidewalks are gonna be, you know, part of Matt's original numbers was to get sidewalks going on both sides so that there was travel path being as close to the school as we are, and it's just gonna be kind of cumbersome with the room that we have and maybe Matt wants to expand on that a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to really go through too much with the sidewalks, I guess. I mean, I know there's the north side of the streets got sidewalk most of the way all
Yeah.
across, I think. The south side has just a part
Partial,
on the east side.
and that's what I'm talking about, is
Yeah.
that's the tough part right
Yeah, the
there.
right of way there is, it looks to be about 50 feet. I think everywhere, when it goes to the west there, it goes up to like 66, I assume.
Mhm.
So it is a narrower right of way through there. But I guess I think you could put a sidewalk in. I mean, you have the street right now, the center of the street's actually skewed a little bit to the north of center line
Oh, it is.
of the right of way. So you do have a little more room
Mhm.
to the south to put a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
Whether that's what you want to do or not, but and it looks to be about a 24-foot street right now. To the west, where it ties into the Nailers, I think it's 28 there. So 28 would match to the west, I guess.
That include water lines and.
Yeah, not sewer though, cause sewer's lined and
That's
is
lined
looking
on
good,
that
yeah.
street, that's good.
Yeah.
All depends on what we find.
Depends on what we find with the water line and that.
Well, water I'd recommend replacing if
Yeah.
you're going to replace the street, because you don't want to have to tear up your brand new pavement.
And it's only 4-inch there, right?
It's 4 inch.
It's
right?
4-inch, and it really should be 6 for fire service, so.
Yeah. And then storm sewer. You know, when you replace the street, you would replace the storm sewer that goes with it, the intakes and the pipe itself.
And we'd also get new tops on the manholes, or not?
Yeah, you would. You can either adjust them, we have to look at them, but.
I mean, that just seems logical. You're going in and we don't know what you're gonna find with all this breakup. You don't know, we got undermining going on. You don't know what we're gonna find once we get underneath there.
Yeah. And you could, with the new storm sewer, you could, like you did with, another project, add a storm sewer line to the property line for people to hook on their sump pumps if they do that.
Yeah, bring it up to more the same as the newer additions as far as drainage, and that is a consistent theme when I'm doing the sump pump inspections, is what do I do with my water? Steve has a whole nother concern with water he's taken from a backyard neighbor, you know, and I feel for everyone about that sort of thing, but when there's no infrastructure in the ground to take care of it, we have to deal with it as we can. Basically, the reason I'm bringing this up and working on it is, I think you got budgeting coming up. Sharon's already laid the groundwork and is confident on the financing part of it. I kinda think we should press ahead to try and get the bidding process out there, so we're not that it went bad, but we're not that last thing in the fall project like the storm sewer thing was. Maybe we can be more on the front end if we're gonna do this thing, to allow more time to be doing it in good weather all the way through to, we got extremely lucky with the storm sewer. They really didn't get crappy while they were out there until the very end. So, if we're gonna do this project, from my standpoint, the quicker we can get on it, the better. And before all these contractors are full, for one thing. So I guess what I'm asking is at a point in time where you tell Matt to go ahead and work on it in more detail than what he's done already? Are you confident enough to do that, or do you wanna see some budget numbers first before you tell him to proceed?
Aren't we gonna need the numbers so we know?
Well,
I mean, we're gonna
Sharon
need the
pretty much-
numbers.
Well, she
otherwise-
pretty much
yeah.
has them. I mean,
But I mean,
you
you
don't
know,
have them in
yeah,
front of
but-
you. Yeah, I
You had
understand.
Basic estimates you'd give us.
Yeah, a couple months ago, I brought a
840.
spreadsheet,
Yeah.
I can look at that look, and that was
I
pretty
think we
quick.
need to have more defined and press forward if we can do this without too much, and just make sure we don't cash poor ourselves.
Yeah.
Too.
Maggie said you want.
I know, but like she said, we could do this. I think we need to press forward with it before we end up with a worse mess than we already have.
Well, that's what I'm worried about, is that we have a blow up bad enough on that street where we actually have to pour concrete waiting for the replacement deal to come, and that would stink.
Well,
you know?
we could end up
We could
end up
probably
with
get
worse,
by.
worse problems than that.
Yeah.
We could have water mains go eventually here, we could have the sewer even get completely disrupted.
I guess what I'm saying is, do you want Matt to bring a contract to the next monthly meeting to start on the project? Because by then you'll be through, have been through most of your budgeting process. Are you confident enough to say yes, bring a contract next time? And you don't even have to sign it then. And I probably appear like I'm pushing this thing, but it's bad. And it's gonna get really bad in the spring when we go through another thaw cycle and it heaves. So, from what I'm seeing, you couldn't do it any faster. You know, you just need to go ahead, but totally your decision, so.
We're not locking ourselves in. If you can come up with total numbers, if we can't fund it, we can't fund it, but we already know we possibly can. Definitely, if you look at the thing, pretty much everybody's in agreement that that needs to get done. That's my opinion.
How much difference would it make if we went to a 26-foot street instead of a 28?
I don't know how much it would be, and I could figure that out. I could
Well,
provide.
I heard you mention something about crowded for space.
It's just a narrower right of way, and you can still make it work. You know, I could figure it out. It'd just be taking, 2 feet times the length and whatever quantity or unit price it had in there. So it's an easy calculation for me. It'd just be changing the amount of concrete and the rock that's underneath it.
Figure it both ways.
I can figure it both ways.
I'd go ahead and bring it to the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have the motion.
Yeah,
I mean,
think
it's
so.
you don't have.
It's a pretty good thing to do.
Working all day tomorrow?
Okay.
I won't work all day, but I'll be working, so if you wanna.
Yeah, get home by about noon or something, we go over.
Sure, sure.
Kinda catch me up on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely, no problem. I think that's it then. It's real easy to table stuff and move it on down the road and not be prepared for the next meeting, and this one is making me nervous as far as how bad the street is, so that's why I'm pushing a little bit, but other than that, I think I'm done.
Do we have trees on that street that need to be taken out too, man?
There could be, yeah, that's entirely possible.
With
I
the
don't,
sidewalk around?
I,
Or not a lot of those sidewalks have to be trees.
yeah.
What are they
They
seeing?
may end up, some of the trees may end up after.
That one's gonna be that's gonna be a tough, whether they're in city, cause you got sidewalk and no sidewalk, and you got a narrower right of way, and that's gonna be a little hard to.
That's something, Matt, you might wanna look at that.
The trees. I don't have. This is just one I had.
That might be an added extra cost.
These are all different. They're just different shots going down the road.
Well, we had to take one tree down as it was.
Mhm.
They had to take one. Yeah.
We would be able to figure out once we get the survey what if the tree line was in the right of way or in the private property.
Yeah, for sidewalks.
You'll have that in your numbers,
Yeah.
obviously.
When you come down to the hard, fast
Yeah.
number, when you get ready for bid, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and, is that all for Guy?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Any questions for him, council? If not, we'll go ahead and move on. Item number 6 is appoint the city clerk, which, that's something that has to be done every January. Every 2 years? Okay, I'm sorry, every 2 years. So we need a motion to do that.
I move that we appoint Sharon Robinson as our city clerk.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Maybe.
Okay. Number 7, urban chicken ordinance.
changing the ordinance, it'd be looking into it further or studying it, creating an ordinance.
I apologize, I was not at the meeting because I was sick and I didn't figure that anybody wanted me to spread the flu germs around, so that's why I was not here at that meeting. I did make some phone calls to some people I know in different cities. Most of them wish they didn't have the ordinance. A lot of the council members I talked to, some of them. Some cities said it was okay, some of them said it's kind of a mixed thing. Some of them said it ended up costing them a lot more money than it was worth for the citizens. Just thought I'd throw out what people I talked to.
We need to have a work session or something, or?
We did last
We already
week.
had
Yeah, we're
one.
doing that.
There's interest in this. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest in this, so that concerns me a bit. Are we gonna spend the money? But, well, as Chester had said, you know, this could cost us money as far as having a lawyer write this all up, et cetera. If I understand correctly, we have to post this in the paper 3 times at an expense. And there's not a lot of interest. There's some, but not a lot.
Then there's the expense of enforcing.
Which you can. So, yeah.
I don't think there's enough interest. I mean, I think there's only 1 or 2 people that want them, and I think just the best interest of the city of Alburnett, I think it's, in my opinion, we just keep it the way it is.
Kinda looks like,
Go on to the next.
yeah, it kinda looks like we'll just kinda leave it the way it is for right now. I think that's pretty much the consent. So, okay. So that's what we'll do. Okay,
That's the official answer, then there is no movement on it that that will not be approved or.
right, we're not gonna move forwards with it at this time, right now. We won't move forwards with it.
So there won't be a urban chicken ordinance.
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, yeah, all right, well, I wanna make sure that it's clear on that, but based upon just the so little interest on that, so. I know that's probably disappointing, but, okay, all right, I'm just gonna leave it too open-ended there, so.
Okay, moving on to resolution, 01-2016-1, the official publication, to state our official, where we publicize stuff at.
Another one of those, first year.
Yep, first of the year we have to do, so we need a motion to,
I move we accept resolution 01-2016-1, approving Lynn newsletter as official publication for the city of Alburnett for the year 2016.
the motion's been made, do we have a second on that resolution?
Second.
Second made, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, resolution 01-2016-2, naming of depositories.
I make a motion that we accept resolution 01-2016-2, naming our depository. Farmers State Bank of Alburnett.
Motion's been made for the resolution, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion been second, do we have all those in favor? Motion carried. Move on to number 10, resolution 01-2016-3, transfer of TDF funds, TIF funds.
And for the new ones, this is, when Rex built the addition out there, we received TIF money. Well, the developer can get a rebate for 10 years, but for 20 years, we can certify for the sewer line that went from his development down to the lift station. So we certified 34,000, when I get the money from the county, it goes into the TIF fund, and now I have to transfer from TIF into that service.
I move we accept resolution 01-2016-3,
Okay,
transfer the funds.
motion been made to accept the resolution, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Resolution 01-2016-4, transfer of water reserves, transfer to water reserves. You want to explain that, Sherry?
This is, in 2010, we got an SRF loan, which is state revolving funds, and it was to help with our water project. And so you have to collect your expenses for the year and 10%. We take the 10% and put it in reserve, and that is a requirement of the SRF loan.
So that has to go.
But this is also, we've been putting it in there, but Maggie told me, we can take, since Moodhart is gonna have a new water line, we can take 100,000 or better out of that reserve to go towards that water line, so it'll help buy down that project. So it's a good thing we've been setting it aside.
So that's what we're doing.
So it's there, so we'll entertain a motion for that.
I'm sorry, you were asking for a motion?
Motion.
I so move we accept resolution 01-2016-4, transfer of money in compliance with section 7 of the water.
Motion made for resolution, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Kester seconded, all those in favor? Motion carries. Moving on, library contract. Need to make a motion?
Make a
or-
motion.
Yeah, make a motion to continue the contract as is.
The only question I had on the budget is, unless I read the budget wrong, it only looks like there's $3,000 in that line item. I must be looking at it wrong.
No, that's what we used
That's
to
what we
pay.
used to pay.
Okay.
You're right.
And that she's asking for 14,
Yeah.
14,333.90.
Oh, we haven't renewed it since 91.
Okay, so that's what it used to be, and then so
Well, also
you're gonna
there's-
have to amend that line item up to that amount, and that's,
135.
okay.
We'll have to put it in our budget.
Okay, that's what I didn't get in the budget earlier.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Can we go back to that old?
Yeah, right.
And actually, it's really, was it because of our per capita and how they figured our per capita?
Well,
And nothing's really changed, it's just the way they
The
figure
per
our per
capita,
capita
the
has
dollar per
changed,
capita.
and the dollar.
I don't suppose you'll take 3,000. Okay,
I wish I could.
fine.
Down payment.
And it's used, and it is good, the e-books is really a good thing. I make a motion, we accept a contract with the Metro Library System.
This is for how many years?
So you're just
Till-
renewing the current
Renewing
one?
it till we go.
It renews every year unless we decide not to, or you
Exactly.
don't send us an invoice.
Well, yeah, that's, so you've gotten several years for free, so more on that.
Okay, been motion made to, accept the library contract. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those favor?
And this is a service that, as a town, we have to provide library service.
Okay, motion carried.
When do we have to pay that?
When she finally
You're gonna
sends
go
us,
back and send
when
me
she
a
sends
bill.
us a bill.
By the end of the fiscal year, because you guys are on fiscal year as well, right? Yeah.
So if we have to be a little late with the check, run over it.
Took us 4 years to notice the last time, so.
So what are you gonna do? Are you gonna, figure it for half a year and.
Yeah, we can do it, and we can turn Sharon, I can do it however works best.
They used to always do it in two.
Do we do it too?
We used to, yeah.
That was probably on a post-it that fell off the thing in like,
I got washed down.
in like 2002.
Okay, we need to set a budget work session, we need to set a date.
What do you think, Sharon? We gotta do it right away, it should, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
this next week or.
Just by the time we get.
I'd really like to have the information from Maggie, that's what I was hoping for, but
Yeah, that can, you don't know when that might be.
no.
We found
She
out
just
yet.
picked it up Friday on her way to Manchester, she just stopped in, picked up paperwork and said she'd work on it, but,
I hear that they're still struggling on what we're gonna get for as far as from.
no, got that
Did
today.
they get all figured out finally?
Yep, came in late today.
Okay, I was gonna say, cause that's the one time,
Actually, we're getting about-
that was running behind and
Oh,
was
it is.
really tough.
We're getting about 3,000 more in taxes than we did last year.
So, do you
At
think,
least we know what we're getting, so.
There's our library.
do you think she might have it by the 21st?
I would think,
A
I'm
week?
hoping. If not, we could just cancel it, I mean, or I'll give her a call and see if,
Should we set it for Thursday, 21st, week from today? Or we could go Wednesday and,
There's just, Wednesday's
Wanna
kind
try
of
that?
a church night for people.
okay, let's go ahead and set it for Thursday the 21st
At 7.
at 7.
At 7.
Okay. Moving on to improvement of the settlement agreement, which is, with Lefty's convenience store.
What we gotta do, just accept this, or we make a motion?
Mhm.
I move we accept order accepting the acknowledgement of their second violation.
and we received the check in 12/31, so they paid us.
They paid us,
Okay.
right? Okay.
Check 75.
I so moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor? Direct deposit payroll,
I checked into that, and with Data Tech, it was a little cost prohibitive. And on their defense, I mean, their system and their software would do everything but make your financial investments. I mean, you could put $20 in savings and the rest in checking, or you could do a percentage, or you could do 15 different banks, or you could, and I said, no, we wanna put 7 checks in there. But it was $500 for the software, another $95 an hour for 2 hours to train you, and $100 a year for support.
Updates. Supports.
And I don't do 100 checks a year.
No.
So that's a little not cost prohibitive. So I am checking into, Bank Iowa's been trying to lure our city business. Now, they talked to me the other day and they're trying to lure our city business, but they do have where, when I do payroll, it does do a file. And she told me that you could take this file and just send it to the bank. So if they can do it, I know Farmer State can do it, so I will check with them and see if that's something possible. And I don't know, does anybody have any interest in changing from Farmer State Bank to Bank of Iowa?
I would think that there would be a way that with our online, that you could probably get the city online banking.
Oh, I do that all the time,
Okay, well, why couldn't you put each of us as bill paying and just,
because you gotta go through payroll, so all your taxes get out.
gotcha. That way you wouldn't worry about me.
so give you cash check.
Oh, I never had gotten any money for that.
Okay, now let's move on here, the IIMC conference, May 22nd to the 25th in Omaha.
This is the international conference again, which only comes, actually, this is quite often, it was in the Midwest, that's the one I went to in Milwaukee, but got the scholarship for. The cost is very little, it's gonna be in Omaha again this year, or next, 16th this year. And,
22nd.
yeah, May 22nd. And I would like to go, there's 4 of us clerks would rent a van, so we would share costs going down and then share a hotel room.
What's the cost, you know, for the conference? I didn't look at your thing, I apologize.
About $900 for Sunday, Monday, 4 days.
Okay? Your one you went to Milwaukee. Was it,
That
did
was
it
six-
fit, did it fit for the size of town we are? Or it fit
And
well with that?
it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. I mean, it's, you have clerks from clear across the country, you have Alaska, you have, they're international, it's
Yeah.
all over, and
I
then
meant
they have.
citywide, did they break it down into the size of cities, so what the information you get is more pertinent for the town our size, or the things, or
Yeah,
is
they
it just
do.
a general broadcast?
No, because a lot of that last year is where I caught up on Robert's Rules of Order, and just mainly, they get conducting a meeting or doing, I mean, like the Robert's Rules of Order, which conducts every city, you don't have to be large or small. So they're general classes.
But you know, very, very beneficial.
Anybody else going, Sharon, you know?
Connie from Walker, Tracy from Urbana, 2 of the girls from Hiawatha, gal from Fairfax. We've got, because Omaha is within traveling, this year it's in Connecticut. And there's a gal from DeWitt traveling to Connecticut. I've never considered.
So, yeah.
No.
We've always been one to want our people to get further education and further training. I make a motion that we send it home.
This is the worst of it.
IIMC conference.
They made a motion to send Sharon to the conference, is there a second?
I'll go up and
Just a
just
second. All those in
put it
favor?
on the agenda for what they're gonna
Motion
do,
carried.
just so you can see it's.
Guy, where you at with that?
Found it. It appears that, some of the worst on Lori is right under his driveway. I'm positive I got the right, I'm gonna go up and measure from the manhole through his driveway tomorrow, and then I'll know, but that's why I asked Alan over here, he says the manhole's about 10 feet away, and probably the worst section of pipe is 23 feet from the manhole, so that makes perfect sense that it's right exactly underneath his driveway. I'm not saying regular old dirt settlement didn't cause some of it to drop, but that's a pretty bad chunk of pipe right there, so. We can put that on,
We'll put that on next
next
month's.
month's. She's got a copy of your bill. Right.
And we'll have, if we do, we'll have to take off for the sidewalk.
It's one panel.
Okay, with that, there's nothing else unless somebody else has something. Okay. Motion made to adjourn, we have a second?
A second.
Motion, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, 8:58.